Okay. All right, so now we're going. So we have a lot of people here tonight and a lot to get through. So I'm just going to start by calling this meeting to order. We're meeting via Zoom per Governor Baker's orders. To read all of that information, it's available on the Grafton Town website. I'm going to start by taking a quick roll call for CIPC. So we'll start with Greg Marr.
Here.
Sue Robbins.
Here.
Amy Marr.
Here.
Jeremy Graves. Matt Often. Carl Moisen. Colleen Roy present. So we have a quorum. We also have school committee joining us today. I'm not sure if Ms. Often, you want to take roll call really quickly?
Yeah, I'll take roll call. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We have Jennifer Conley. Jennifer Conley's present. She's been having some technology issues. Amy Marr is doing joint duty tonight. So she is here.
Yep, I'm here.
Elizabeth Spinney.
Here.
Rahul Rati.
Here.
And Laura Often's here. From our school district, we have our superintendent, Jay Cummings.
Jay Cummings here.
And our director of finance, Anita Patel.
Here.
Okay, so the first thing on the agenda tonight is the school department to review the energy audit by Trane. So if Dr. Cummings, if you wanted to introduce Trane and get that going.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for having us tonight. I want to provide a very brief history leading up to tonight's meeting. The schools, as you know, have a long list of capital needs, have had a long list for a decade plus, and we were certainly struggling and are struggling to make real headway with that list. We began exploring alternatives last year, and we went out to bid for an energy audit, which was completed by Trane over the summer. We shared the results and this general idea that's going to be discussed tonight with CIPC and school committee over the past month and a half. And tonight we've asked representatives from Trane to present an overview and answer questions that both of the committees have. And with that, I would like to introduce Morgan Paris from Trane Technologies, and she will introduce the team and help us get through this presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction, Jay. I am Morgan Paris. I'm an account executive with Trane Technologies. And like Jay said, we've been partnering together for the past close to a year now. My team members also on the phone are Leo McNeil, who is our Senior Director of Solutions. We also have Yaju Rohan and Tony Busher, who are our energy engineers for the project. Mark Kalinsky, who is our manager of operations for the district, as well as Colin Boozy, who handles our measurement and verification of energy savings. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share my presentation. This is my first trial with Zoom sharing, so maybe give me a heads up if I'm doing it right. Are we all good?
Looks good.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, great. So today we just wanted to briefly go over some new challenges that may have arisen in the past year since we started this process. Some existing challenges, which were the reason that we got into the process in the first place with Grafton Public Schools. Performance contracting 101, just to give you guys a brief overview of why we're doing this in the first place. A review of the audit, and just the general benefits that this project would bring to the community once implemented. And feel free to jump in and ask questions during the presentation. Would like it to be more interactive if you guys have any questions. So within the past few months, about a year, obviously there have been some challenges that have arisen. Not only are people dealing with budget constraints, but they're also dealing with the trial and error of being hybrid or being completely in class or being completely remote, as well as indoor air quality challenges, or, and with all of that going on, also attempting to maintain resiliency and energy efficiency all the while. So we know you guys are dealing with a lot, and we're here to partner with you guys and help you moving forward. Some of the existing challenges that Grafton has faced, like Jay said, we know you guys have a growing capital plan, a 5-year plan, and we notice roofs from NSES SGES, windows from NSES, as well as heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems that need modifications in almost all of the schools. And due to budget constraints, it's been difficult to keep up with that. There's this thing we call the spiral, where schools are only given this much amount of money each year to keep up, and they can pick away at their capital problems and operational problems, but you can never really fully come and give a full solution that attacks all of your school buildings. So this is what this project is attempting to do, as well as, like I said, keeping up with those CDC and ASHRAE recommendations for indoor air quality. That's been a big focus of ours as well through this audit phase. Now, this is my little performance contracting 101. Performance contracting is an alternative procurement method to what people typically know of as 30B or 149. It is supported by the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources. And you can see in the bottom right how they define performance contracting. It's a one-stop shop for study, design, installation, construction, commissioning, financing for 20 years. So it's a partnership, it's one contract, and it really ensures that the company that you select to move forward with is your partner for those 20 years. And they're in it for the long term. So like Jay said, we've entered into the design phase and performed our investment grade audit. And we have presented our list of recommendations to Jay, and he presented to the committee. So we're here to answer any questions for you. But the goal is that you can pay for these projects entirely or in part from energy savings. With a project where you have maybe a significant number of capital items, such as roof or windows, it's unlikely that you would be paying for the project 100% by energy savings. But the benefit of the procurement method in itself is that it is a method for you to get that work done instead of having to struggle with maybe the MSBA or going out to bid. It's more seamless, quicker, usually cost effective, much more cost effective, and just flexible in general. So this is our list of recommendations. As you can see, our energy conservation measures are listed on the left, and then each school is in a vertical column going down. So we've recommended heating boiler plants in a few of the schools, new HVAC equipment in almost all of the schools. Actually, HVAC equipment in all of them, but I marked out NSES because that one is the only one that won't have air conditioning, because that equipment is pretty new to the point of where it would be not cost effective for us to add cooling to that building, but that will have HVAC equipment. New controls and a new building management system at all of the schools. Lighting retrofit to various degrees at each school based on what they already have. Building envelope upgrades, just fixing the cracks in buildings. You'd be surprised at how much energy you can save by just making sure that your building is secure and you don't have air exiting or entering the building that you don't want it to, just keeping that conditioned air inside a space. And then walk-in freezer controls and kitchen hood controls. Those are typical ECMs that we work with in schools, and those are kind of the low-hanging fruit that help us balance out the other projects. Bipolar ionization is one of our air cleaning techniques that we are recommending for improved indoor air quality. It's pretty easily installed into existing systems, and that's why it's beneficial for you. And then lastly, new windows at NSES. We know that that was one of the big ticket items on your capital list, so we wanted to include that as well. And now I wanted to note that this would be seen as maybe a phase 1 project. Roof and solar photovoltaic is not included in this recommended scope of work, but we did recommend it in the whole project scope. And then yes, green is for recommended ECMs.
Before we go on,
Yes.
could you, back on that previous one?
Yeah.
Why do only some of them have the ionization systems, or the other ones not? Is it not possible for those, or?
I think that's, Yaju, can you answer that? I believe it's because of the equipment that you have.
Yeah, so we are installing those bipolar system on unit ventilators, and high school and Grafton Middle School and North Grafton Elementary Schools has like air handlers. They don't have unit ventilators. So, but there are other systems that you can install for that we can add later on those high school and Grafton Middle School. But we just focused on bipolar just for the unit ventilators because that's the easy install.
Okay.
We do have some new technologies that could be implemented into spaces instead of in units, and those might be easier for those spaces that we haven't included the bipolar.
The other question we had about this one was, what are the controls? It said new controls and then freezer controls and hood controls. If you could just tell us a little bit about what those are.
Yaju?
Yep. Currently, all of your building has some type of control system, but like it's ranging from a brand new system to old pneumatic controls. You guys have a front end, which is like you can go on the computer and you can see some equipment, but those controls are limited because a lot of end devices are controlled by pneumatic controls. So usually they use the compressed air to control individual end devices such as actuators, dampers, valves. So those technology has been outdated like 20 years ago. No one used pneumatic controls. So the last time when they did the controls upgrade, they kept all the pneumatic devices in place and did not upgrade the system. So like we are replacing new HVAC equipment in middle school, other places, and those unit will come with a factory mounted control. So we are just integrating those new units to a centralized control system, and all the control system will be through a one web browser. So web browser, so you don't have to go through a different website or different computers to look at different computers, different schools. So we are optimizing all the controls in one place, so one person can go to the one site and manage all the schools at one place. And we will get rid of all the pneumatic devices because no one's there to no one knows how to fix those devices anymore because it's been outdated like 20 years ago.
So which building will have the master control?
All of the buildings will have updated controls and they will connect it to a one location. So one person go to the like a web page and he can control all the schools through one
Okay.
one website.
There is one box, it's called an SC, that will go in one building, but it's irrelevant which building that goes into because all of the data will be feeding into that website is what he's saying.
So right now, Tony has to go through like a different places to access different buildings. Now he can access everything through his phone, computer, anywhere in the world. He can control all the buildings, all the temperature. So it makes easy to have one setup schedule for all the schools, and it makes life easy, and they can monitor all the equipment through one central location and more efficiently.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question about this building envelope.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you fix the crevices and openings. So is that all? Or, I mean, is it an ongoing process or is it a one-time process?
That will be a one-time process. So we have gone through all your buildings and we did the building envelope study. So we went with the smoke puffer and make sure that we can find all the gaps, and we can see if you're have missing insulation on the like attic or stuff like that. And we have identified the scope. So what we will do, we'll come and we'll seal those gaps. So there's no air infiltration in the building, and all the doors where the weather stripping is missing, we will replace those at one time. And those weather strips probably will last for 3-4 years. But after 3-4 years, I think school has to make sure that they will replace those weather stripping. But any gaps in the building that we will seal, they probably be good for next 10-15 years. So you don't have to do it again. But weather stripping on the doors has to be replaced like every 3-4 years because they're gonna continuously using the doors. So there's wear and tear. So that should be a maintenance program for your maintenance department to make sure that they replace the weather stripping on the doors every 3-4 years to keep building energy efficient.
Thanks.
There was another representative from Trane that was speaking a moment ago, but he was on mute. So I don't know if he wanted to go back and.
Sorry, I was going to try a failed attempt at humor. My colleague Yazoo mentioned that this building control system can control buildings from any place in the world. So just wondering if he had discussed with Tony in advance the expectation that he'll be managing these buildings from just about anywhere via his smartphone. Sorry, I digress.
Yeah,
I did
we
think-
have I've
I
been in
did-
touch with Tony since we starting this project. So yeah, I don't do anything without his approval.
I'm kidding. Seriously, I just thought it was worth repeating that point, that these are integrated building automation systems that are accessible via your smartphone. So he can literally now, if you're having a meeting at night and it's cold in the building, you can call him and he can fix it from his smartphone, literally from, as Yazoo says, wherever he is in the world. So it's very convenient, up-to-date, state-of-the-art technology you'll be getting. Thanks, Colleen, for calling me out. I realized I was doing some of my best work there while on mute, the story of my life.
Some of your best work. I love it. All right.
Always on mute. All right, back I go.
So here is our cash flow sheet. It follows our ECM summary sheet. So with the recommended scope of work that we just discussed, this is what the cash flow sheet would look like over the 20-year term. So as you can see, we have projected energy savings listed in the first box, some avoided maintenance costs due to lighting, utility rebate there at the bottom that goes in at the first year, and then the respective cash flows and annual payments that would follow for the next 20 years. But the good news of those annual savings, when you compare that to the total project costs, energy savings is paying for roughly 60% of the project. And you have a good number of, some capital items and completely new HVAC system with new ventilation, new controls. So it's pretty great comparatively. So to summarize, the benefits to the community, in addition to just completely new air conditioning and ventilation systems, potential for them to be completed by summer 2021. That comes out to about $7.8 million in needed facility updates with minimal capital outlay. And that's per year. You're not paying all at once. You're paying a little bit each year. Those savings help pay for the project over time. And those are guaranteed savings by Trane. So we would put our energy savings into contract and guarantee them to the point where if we don't meet the savings that we promised to you, we will pay a check to make up for it, which thankfully has never had to happen. Trane New England has a 100% success record with our guarantees. And typically we exceed them by, I think, about 11% is our track record at this point. And then we combine those energy savings with utility rebates that we receive from the state to reduce those costs for you.
I wanted to know how you calculate the savings.
Yes, so we have an intelligence services group. I actually have one of our M&V engineers on the phone today. So if we need to get into more detail, we can, but essentially Massachusetts 25A11I requires you to guarantee energy savings every single year for the entire length of the term. So what we do is we use our control system and we actively monitor that 24/7, 365 days a year. And we take 15-minute interval data of all of your building systems and compare them to each other. So we can realize trends, any errors in your systems. And in the end of the year, we'll pull together an annual report saying, this is what we guaranteed to you. This is what we actually delivered on. And here's the excess or shortfall of compared to those guaranteed energy savings. And we do that yearly, and we actually also do what we call building performance reports that happen quarterly to also show you how your systems are operating. If we could make a tweak here or there, could we save you more money? If we could perform sometimes we find ECMs in the middle of the year, like we can tweak a temperature set point and this will save you $7,000 a year. So it's a pretty active process throughout the year and throughout those 20 years. And we have schools where we're on year 10, on year 15 of monitoring and verifying and submitting that report every year.
Is inflation included in that analysis?
Yes, so you actually can't see. I could pull up an example of the cash flow sheet, but we have about a 3% energy inflation rate, and then we also take into account dollar inflation too.
All right, thank you.
And if you have more questions, I have more information on M&V at the end of the slide if you'd like to discuss that more. But also for the social aspect of this project, we would be improving indoor air quality, not only by upgraded ventilation systems, but also with some of those indoor air quality tactics we mentioned, like the bipolar ionization and the controls as well. And then that would hopefully positively impact attendance, teacher retention, comfort. And then the environmental benefits are obvious. If you're saving thousands of dollars a year, you're reducing your energy and utility consumption, as well as reducing emissions. And that is all we had to discuss today. Do we have any more questions? I have some backup slides if you did want to hear more about the measurement and verification of Trane.
Which projects in your last slide that you mentioned that projects could be started during summer 2021, which projects did you anticipate you would begin with as part of this?
Well, the quickest projects are typically the ones that require the least amount of equipment. So it really just depends on lead time and how quickly we can move, but we would work very closely with Anita and Jay to talk over timelines and figure out a schedule to make sure we get the projects done as quickly as possible.
What's the potential timeline to have all projects completed?
That would depend on when and how quickly we can move. So that again is back to working closely with Anita and Jay on when we can get this project going.
So let's say you started in the summer 2021 and everything falls perfectly for you. What would you say it could potential completion date be?
Usually it takes about a year.
Okay.
Is when we final projects are done, but I mean sometimes it's quicker than that. I think we have up to a year, but we usually complete shorter than that. But Yaju, Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Usually what we have done with all of our other projects, that usually we sign a contract in like March, February, March, sometimes early April. And then what we can do is we can order all the equipment. And then by the time the summer vacation starts, we have all the equipment in our with us, so we can install them during the summer break. We just put 1 year in our construction timeline because sometimes we have to do fine tune all your energy management system and all the equipment. So they will be providing heating and cooling by end of the summer vacation, but then we will still be working on to make sure that they perform according to our energy savings calculations and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why we put 1 year in our construction timeline, but most of the time we are able to finish majority of construction in summer vacation.
Sorry, I just had one more question. It was what you said the roof and solar PV were not included in this plan, but they could be added in later phases. What other projects could be added in later phases, or are those the only projects that we would be allowed to add?
That was all that we identified in our investment grade audit at this time. But the benefit of this procurement is that we do have the contract for 20 years. So if there is something down the line in 5, 10, 15 years that you do want to add, we have the benefit of adding amendments and having multiple phases of this project. If there was something that you wanted us to look at, we'd be happy to do that. And we have in the past. We've done 5, 6 phases with multiple school districts.
So, and a follow-up to that, was it your recommendation not to include solar at this point, or what was the reason for that?
That might be a better question for Anita and Jay. I think it was due to just the roofs being a large capital investment, and you don't want to do solar on the roofs if you have aging roofs. So if they were to be done, you would want to do them together.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. And in that workbook that was shared with both committees, If you did have a chance to interact with it, you can certainly select that, but you can see, I don't know, obviously Trane, you guys know the ratios and the numbers a million times better than I do. But as soon as we had the roofing projects on, the costs just jumped tremendously. So we took them off for now, and they can certainly be added, but they are off in terms of the recommendation as it stands.
I know that the Honeywell project had done some things that through the schools. One of them was Univents. Are you doing those over, or is this something totally different?
So Honeywell installed the unit ventilators at North Street Elementary School.
Mm-hmm.
And we are planning to reuse them. We're not replacing them because they were just installed like 3-4 years ago.
That's the reason we're not adding air conditioning to that building, is because those units are 7-8 years old, or maybe even newer. But those are the only ones I think that they replaced, right?
Yeah, so the Honeywell installed, I think, McWay units, and so we are recommending air conditioning at other schools because when we did the initial analysis, like Trane unit ventilators at Millbury Street can handle the chill water because we are putting a chiller over there. But we were afraid that those McWay units at North Street Elementary School can't handle cooling. So that's the reason we did not recommend air conditioning at North Street Elementary School. But there are different options that we can always go back and reconsider adding air conditioning at North Street Elementary School.
One of the questions we've had was, in order to start the projects next summer, when would you need commitment from us, and when would the first exchange of money happen? Because that would affect various options for when it needs to be approved by town meeting and other items like that.
So you're saying if we needed the project, if we wanted to get the projects done next summer, 2022, 2021?
2021.
2021. Well, typically it depends on the equipment, but I think typically we need about a few months to order the equipment. So then we would probably need financial contracts signed from you guys a few months before the summer, in earlier parts of the year.
And I think that also requires some type of down payment when we sign, right after we sign the contract, so we can.
But that's from the bank. That you would need to figure out financing, but it's not directly from you.
Okay, the reason we're asking, we have town meeting is Saturday, and there's nothing there for approval then. The next town meeting is scheduled for mid-May. So if we needed to have approval at town meeting for this project, and we wanted to start in the summer, we would presumably have to have another town meeting earlier in the spring.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
if we had to spend money in this fiscal year, as opposed to just signing contracts and spending money in the future. I mean, it may still require for contracts, I'm not sure, but.
Have you worked with any other communities where the similar thing happened? They signed a contract after their spring town meeting. So let's say you might not get funding until July. How would it work then?
I think Leo can answer this.
yeah, that's a good question for Leo.
Okay, let me unmute. Yeah, sure. Try as we might to get contracts executed in Q1 every year, inevitably, for a variety of reasons, they slip into Q2 and sometimes even Q3. So I think, as some of my colleagues mentioned earlier, there are things that we can do in your buildings that are not as invasive as some of the mechanical items. For example, the building envelope stuff, the walk-in cooler freezer items, perhaps even lighting, things like that. But the linchpin to the whole timeline of the schedule is the availability of the equipment, as Morgan said. So some of the devices, for example, unit ventilators here, I think, Yaji, were there 19 or 20 of those in this overall scope? Just approximately unit ventilators.
Yeah, so there are 19 unit ventilators going at South Grafton Elementary School.
Okay, so thanks. So I'll continue. So for example, if they have a 16-week lead time, and Ms. Roy, to your point, say we were authorized to proceed in May and authorize the equipment in May, it would be June, July, August, September that the equipment would show up. So assuming that there's some occupation or at least partial occupation of the buildings next September, that would not be the ideal time for us to be in those classrooms, right, with all kinds of invasive construction going on. So we have a variety of options there. One is to work, night shifts or weekends or during vacations, or just simply wait until the next big break, which might be the following summer. So we'll adapt the installation schedule to modify the start time. But to the point that was just discussed, I think in response to Mr. Marr's question, if hypothetically we were to have authorization to release and start buying equipment in January, it would show up January, February, March, April, would be a perfect time to plan and be ready to hit the ground running, so to speak, and start doing those unit ventilators and other invasive kind of projects in the summer. But it just doesn't sound like that aligns with everything you've got going on locally. I guess the good news is, from our perspective, it's okay. The project is still valid. It will just be sequenced in a different manner. And we'll work closely with you to do that, by the way. Does that help?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is if knowing how much of a financial commitment we would need to make in this fiscal year. In other words, is there something that isn't already approved in our budget that we would have to get town meeting to approve before we could sign the contract? And that's really where I was kind of going with that. So I guess that's a discussion we'll have to have more on our side.
Typically, the contracts are executed for the entire scope as shown, and the payments are typically independent of your local capital reserves, either through a bond or lease. Certainly, if there are capital reserves available, they could be used to supplement either your bond or your lease. But again, the way it typically works is we work with your local council to reach acceptable terms on the contract itself. And that's a model contract from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, by the way, so that's normally not a heavy lift. Once we've established and reached terms on the contract, we'll work closely with your finance folks. Again, whether it's lease or bond, doesn't matter to us. But as I'm sure you're aware, whether it's a lease or a bond, once it closes, then all of the funds become available, typically go into an escrow account, and then we go build the project. We get paid a certain amount, like a down payment upon signing the contract and upon your executing financing, and then proceed with the project and bill it on a percentage completion basis throughout construction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So I don't
have
expect.
a quick question
Yeah.
about the lack of air conditioning for North Street Elementary School and SES. So it was my understanding, and I understand the topic because it was recently done by Honeywell, that all of our schools would be getting air conditioning. And in previous presentations, that's what I had understood. So I think you said maybe you could put it back in. I would love to see what the cost would be to get that. I think if we're going to do all the schools, it would be really unequitable to have one of our larger schools, an oldest school, be left out of that for our staff and our students.
Sure, I can go and I can go back and revisit that, and I can certainly add that.
Thank you.
We're happy to do that. We'll provide that information.
That would be helpful. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Certainly, yep.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, thank you guys very much for coming in and presenting. It was very helpful and insightful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you
very
so
much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, folks. Good luck with everything.
Good night.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
How do I stop sharing? All right. Bye. Thank you.
Colleen, do you need school committee to stay on? Are you gonna chat about it more or?
If you guys want to chat about it more, we absolutely can do that. If you guys had any other questions or concerns you wanted to talk about here, or
I did have a question for Anita and Jay. I'm assuming that you're talking lease and then the savings, correct? Capital and savings? I'm not sure how you're
Correct.
working out your schedule, your budget.
Anita, do you want to respond?
I will. So I spoke with the treasurer collector today regarding if we would go out for either a bond or a ban. And I think she said that she would have to consult with our financial advisor just to see what the interest rates are and if it would be better to first get a ban until the projects are done and then roll it into a bond payment afterwards.
Okay. And how do you calculate this all? I know you said in the operating budget for the school department, you would have a line where you would note the savings for that year. How do you put that all, how do you account, what does that look like in the books? That's, I guess, what I'm getting at.
So basically, Jay and I were actually talking about this just a couple weeks ago while we were trying to wrap our heads around like how we would make an actual bond payment, like a debt payment for this. So the best way that I can explain it to you is that if they come out and say, okay, we will save $200,000 per year on utility costs, we would transfer that $200,000 that we would normally allocate towards our utilities, and we would save that for a debt payment. But debt payments come off of the town's general ledger side. So the school's budget would be decreased by that $200,000, and it would go over to the debt account number on the town side. So it would be between that saving. So it would be that $200,000 less of our utilities, plus whatever monies CIPC would allocate to us towards our capital plan. And that would pay for the entire debt payment.
So those savings would be an expense.
That saving, yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. I think I'm wrapping my head around this, but
Okay.
it's
Thinking
kind of
about the
hard
why.
to
We're
visualize.
still working on it.
Sorry, I hope I explained it well.
Yeah, I got it so
Okay.
far, but I'm just thinking, what does it look like in the books? How is it, calculated in the books? What does it look like when you're doing the counting? I wasn't sure.
So basically, it would basically look like the school's budget is decreased by 200,000 and the town's budget is increased by the 200,000.
Okay.
But it's really just net zero because it's a debt payment. It's in
Right.
and then out the other. So it nets zero.
All right.
I have a question for Dr. Cummings. What is your sense of urgency on this? Because I'm just trying to figure out how to make this work. If we would need to do a special town meeting, and if we could, what our interim town administrator, how much they want to get involved in this, or if we have to wait for our new town administrator, and we're on the pace to get a new financial director. And it just seems like these are key players that would need to be involved in this. And it stinks because of course I'd want this to start summer 2021. It sounds like a great idea, but I just don't know if it could be done sooner than spring, considering some major players are not in place yet.
Yeah, great question, Colleen. I wish I knew the answer. That's kind of what we're struggling with too. And obviously CIPC has been fantastic, but normally we would be working closely with a town administrator, with different people on the municipal side, and working together to figure it all out. And obviously right now, if nobody's fault, we don't have that. Yeah, I don't know what to really add. I want to find out more about the North Street. That AC component, I think, is that's a big thing. Tonight they talked about other equipment for the schools in which they couldn't do that bipolar ionization. So over the next few days, next week, I want to get more information from Trane as to what exactly those costs would be. Is there typically, I might be making this up, but is there typically a January special town meeting? Or
No.
I'm
not
making that up.
typically. No,
Oh,
we've had a few, but it's not a typical
it's
thing.
not every year.
But
Okay, I knew that would be too convenient.
Well, yes, it was,
But-
but I mean, it isn't out of the question if, if this is.
Yeah, we had one for building the high school.
Oh, that was the last one. Okay.
We've
And-
had others. We had the special town meeting for one Grafton Common and others. We would just have to decide if it's worth it and if we need it this quickly. I feel like that would be a recommendation, probably pushing from the school committee.
I know that your CARES Act money, the COVID money it has to be spent by the end of December.
It does.
Yeah, it's
But so you can't put any of these.
No projects. No, it's almost not entirely, but really PPE and technology.
Okay.
And it's got to be directly connected to COVID. And again, not at construction, but that's a great idea. That would be perfect. And that's really, we're all saying the same thing with obviously newer ventilation systems put into our schools, given the issues at hand would be fantastic.
Will this contract still be available to us if we did have to wait until spring? Or will they have to redo the contract again?
No, I believe it would be available, and we could do amendments as we go forward and add. So, okay.
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
I think if we could get some more information on what a potential warrant article for this would look like. If we're saying this is a debt exclusion or it's just an authorization to enter into a contract and money will come from the normal budgeting process and thus there's no tax increases to the town. That kind of information I think would be very helpful. So I'm still not sure exactly how that would work.
Yep. Okay. So we will, Anita and I will work with a few different people and work on that, get a better, I think we're struggling. I think, I can't speak for everybody, but there's maybe a good idea in here somewhere, but how do we package it? How does it all actually, how do all the pieces interact? And then I'll get the information regarding the AC and the ventilation equipment. And so I'll do that work with Anita and then circle back to the school committee and then CIPC.
I'm really excited. It seems like a great opportunity if we can make it work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate all of you taking the time to listen to us for 2 meetings and your feedback. If you think of anything that we didn't discuss that it would be helpful, if we got that information, just email me or Anita and we'll get right on it.
Jake, can you just talk a little bit about, they mentioned that the difficulty of going through MSBA. I know that we were looking at the North Street windows through that program. So in their presentation, it was mentioned that they would use incentives to try to pay for some of the stuff. Would that include things like the Windows program that, if it was available to help pay for some of those, large infrastructure projects?
It would not tie into the MSBA monies or grant programs at all.
Okay.
They, in their initial presentation to us, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the MSBA process, even with the roughly 50 cents on the dollar, the fact that it was so multi-layered and you had to go through a whole process for the architectural piece, and then, it was layers and layers. You may recall this ballpark, but let's say the window replacement, roughly 200 windows, 190 at North Street, total cost, say 200,000, or I'm sorry, 2 million at least.
Yep.
They had this cost for replacing these windows without having the multi-layered process of under $1 million. It's just so much more
Really?
efficient. Yeah, it was remarkable.
Okay.
And
There was something that was really bothering me about the idea that potentially we were leaving that much money on the table
Yeah.
through matching
Me too.
funds.
Matt, me too. You hear 50 cents on the dollar and like, you'd be crazy not to pursue that. But
Interesting.
yeah, it was fascinating. I'll actually try to, I'll see if they have that information, because that was interesting to say the very least to me.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I'm just trying to figure out the kind of accounting ins and outs and how that's all going to work, and what the impact's going to be on the budget, and where everything's going to go, I guess.
Yeah.
I love the idea that we have a predictable, planned approach to handling some of this stuff, as opposed to the kind of hurdy-gurdy.
Yeah.
You get some amount every year and just figure out what you can do this year. I think all of us are in favor of moving on from that approach to something that's more systemic and deliberate. So I love the idea of it. But yeah, just kind of, I haven't quite wrapped my head around how the budget pieces can work.
If you do, let me know. Anita will have it down pat. She's been working tirelessly on it with everything else going on. So we will focus in on that over the next few days with the other kind of homework assignments, and then circle back.
Well, thanks for bringing this to the table.
Well, thanks for having us.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys need to adjourn or just how you guys handle that actually.
Oh, we'll just do an official adjournment, since I think it is a joint meeting. So very quickly, can I have a motion to adjourn from school committee?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, Jen Conley,
Jennifer Connelly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rathi,
Aye.
Laura Often, aye. Thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to partnering with you guys on this in the future. Take care. Thanks, Anita and Jay. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thank you.
I know.
Amy, you stay.
Yeah, Amy, you get to stay. I
Yeah.
get to go. Goodbye.
Okay, so our next special guest is Mr. Peter Carlson, and he is going to share with us those really overwhelming but yet very awesome Excel sheets for, what's Jeremy doing? Okay, so Peter, you're up.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I was asked to join you guys on one of your meetings to go over the evaluations spreadsheet that was designed, oh God, back in 2011. So I'm here to answer any questions. I apologize. I wasn't sure about what to go over, or if you've got, Colleen, if you've already had a sample of the sheet that you shared with the committee. I'd be more than happy to go over whatever you have for files, just to be sure I've got consistency. So that way we're looking at the same versions of things.
So I had an older version. It wasn't the one that you and I worked on, where we updated it and added some of the lease payments we knew to expect. I couldn't find that one. So if you could find that one, and then maybe just show examples of if we typed a project in and what it would look like and how it, all the basically the stuff you and I went through. Yep.
If you want to take a minute and maybe go over some other business, give me a few minutes. I'll pull it up and I'll share my screen out.
Okay, so I will share my screen real quick. We are looking at a couple slides for town meeting, and I just wanted to see what the committee thought of this.
Are we gonna have AV at town meeting?
I don't know, but it's better to be prepared, right? And we can always print it out and hand it out if we really wanted to.
That was my
The other thing is, it's in a consent agenda, so there's a good chance we don't present at all. But, you know, let's be prepared, right? So Matt worked really hard and got these slides together for us really quickly, and I just wanted you guys to take a look at them and see what you thought. I am struggling here with this. Okay, so you know, I can read it to you if you like. The Capital Planning Improvement Committee. The committee studies the requirements and needs for the For capital improvement, the committee advises the town administrator, select board and finance committee. Why do we need this? For budget efficiencies, we got the override money, and our evolving needs. What are the benefits? A comprehensive capital budget, improvement to long-term planning. You know, you guys know this, the famous wheel looks really good. And then this is the page that we would like to possibly tweak if you guys think. Does this seem too combative? Does this seem like it might be going on the offense for something that's not there? I don't know what you guys think about this one. Matt, did you want to add anything?
No, so well, I guess so. So the idea is that hopefully we don't need any slides at all. But we would be prepared to put some slides up if there was some way to do that. And if there were particular questions that came up, or if there was a more lengthy discussion that seemed like it was breaking out. My suspicion is that there aren't going to be a lot of people at this meeting, and it's going to be pretty straightforward. But yeah, so I guess my only concern with this third slide is it seems a little bit defensive, and it poses some questions that maybe people will think about and then we have to discuss. But, you know, I like the slides that like Jay brings to every meeting, where if you want to talk about, you know, the school increase in personnel line item over time, he just has a slide for that. So the thought was that we would just have some slides that would talk to what we would anticipate the common questions might be.
Quite frankly, addressing the concerns, I think we should put it out there. I think it's being on the offense, quite frankly, and not being defensive. You know, people are thinking this thing, so why not attack it head on and just answer them? And if they have any further comments, they can make it. But I think we should present that.
One thought that I had, and I agree with you, Sue, maybe the title of the slide could be like common questions as opposed to addressing concerns. So that it's not like putting people on the defensive. Because these are questions we've gotten several times, so that's not lying, right?
Right.
Common questions. The first slide, and I'm stupid, I keep clicking on the thing to go back to the first slide. Isn't it the capital improvement and planning committee and capital planning and improvement?
No, it's capital improvement and planning.
And planning. Okay, I knew there was a word missing.
It's also in the wrong order.
Oh, that's why it didn't look right.
It's CIPC, not CPIC.
There we go. And planning. There we go. Just an ampersand, yeah.
I doubt very much if there's going to be a place to show. I think we're going to have to print out hard copies for people at the town meeting, because I know all the warrants are going to be hard copy. So these can be put out there.
One of the things I was thinking, you know how Colleen made that fantastic video with Mark about the consent agenda? I mean, today is Wednesday. There's 3 days to go. What if we did something similar with this slideshow and put it on the web as a video and see if Bob could put it up on cable? And that way people are at least a little bit more informed than they are right now.
We can do that. I mean, it was pretty easy to do.
Great idea.
These are great slides, and you could throw them up and talk people through them and video it and throw it up on the, you know, everywhere.
It's just, I don't know if enough people are going to see it in this short span.
You're surprised. Once you start sharing this stuff, people click on it within that first day or two, and then it goes away, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy
quick.
how quickly that consent agenda thing got around.
People are still really plugged into what's happening in town.
Because we don't have anything else to do, Matt.
I think that's part of it, for sure. People are upset though, for lots of reasons with everything. So, yeah.
They're engaged. They're excited.
So
I like it.
I think that's a phenomenal idea.
The only other comment I have is, this is unintentional. The way advises is in red and underlined. It looks like it's an error. I think maybe not red, maybe
Yeah,
just black and bold, or maybe not underlined. I don't know, but it looks like a typo, right? Because I looked at, my eyes went right to that.
It looks like an autocorrect.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Greg, you need to mute your mic when I'm talking.
Oh, I thought I had.
Nope. Oh, this is
Okay.
great.
Okay, so we're happy with the first slide now that we have our committee name right, which is really good. And then this last slide, common questions, and was everybody satisfied? Is there any other common questions that we might have missed that we should include, or just kind of stick to these three?
So I actually had a nightmare about this meeting, and somebody asked the question, why do we need this bylaw at all? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Why is this needed now? Right here on the first slide. And it's
So
going to
why-
drive.
Right, but why do we need a bylaw is the question.
We're already meeting, we're already agreeing on the process.
Right.
So
So that's a question that I wondered. I don't know if it's a common question, but it occurred to me that I'm like, if I had to answer that, I don't know that I could answer it. We have a charge from the select board. We're already beginning the work.
Well, a good answer for that for me would be is you can just look at the history of the committee in Grafton. And when it first started, you know, Peter can attest to this, it was where we are now. It was with this awesome Excel sheet. They got the submission forms, they were doing everything. And then over time, it kind of just morphed into this, here, you get it at the end of February and up or down vote, and it left. And without a bylaw, that could happen to this committee again, where we lose the ability to do our job.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, it just gives it a little bit more stability over time. The other thing that I wanted to point out is in the second slide, I had the request forms going into planning.
Saw that.
Is that permanent?
It's permanent for right now, I guess. You know, anything could change. It's not in the bylaw, though. I don't believe we addressed it. That's a Carter thing.
That's a Carter thing, and that's only because he needed Chris to do it. Chris has got a lot to do, and that's taking away from him if he has to handle this. So I'm hoping this is only a temporary measure, because
I get the
got a
sense
lot
that
to done.
I was getting the sense that it wasn't, and Carter made me feel like this is something he has seen in other communities he's been in. So I
Well,
guess we get clarification on that.
Well, I think
Well,
you should sit down with Chris and have a good talk about it, because Chris has his hands full. He doesn't have an assistant either anymore.
Yeah, that is something that Carter's repeatedly brought up, that at some point we're gonna need to deal with the staffing level in the planning department for
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
So, but I wanted to point it out because this was something that I changed from what was presented to the select board, I think. Or to CPC. Because we had it going to the TA.
Yeah.
Receive capital
Sorry.
package from the TA. Yes. Yep.
Yep.
I like it.
Do we need to say where it's coming from?
I guess
If
not.
we're not sure if that's where it's, if that's a permanent thing or a temporary thing.
I'm comfortable with it either way. If you guys want to take it out and just have it say receive capital package, we can do that. I don't know if the bylaw says from TA though, and that's why it was written the way it was on this cycle. I'm gonna have to double check the bylaw, and I might go back and change this, but I don't know, maybe you're right, Greg. Maybe oh, it's just a thing.
Yeah, just take it out. Take out from planning and then we're good.
It's an image, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I
So-
did that to myself. I'll fix it.
The other thing I just noticed is we're creating a capital budget recommendation, not the capital budget. So that on the The one on the far right says create capital budget and 5-year plan. I don't know if we want to put recommendation in there somehow.
Yep, that makes sense.
I would
That
put
was
recommendation.
that
in,
was
definitely.
probably me just trying to save space.
Yeah.
Can we
Okay.
add recommendation up here? Does that fix it?
No.
Okay, good. Somebody tell me.
You could put recommendation right at the bottom under year plan, 5-year plan, recommendation.
Yep, these are things that I can do.
Yeah.
Okay. How's it going, Peter? Did you find the document?
I'm all ready. I was just waiting for you guys. Yep, I'm ready whenever you're ready to move on.
Okay. So you are up, Mr. Carlson.
All right. Let me share my screen here for y'all. Yep, this is it right here. Can everyone see this okay? Do I need to, probably need to zoom in a little bit here for you? How's that look? Is that a good eye chart for everybody?
It's good for me.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, thanks. All right, so good evening, everyone. I just wanted to work through you that this evaluation chart was designed so that CIPC members can have a data-informed decision about whether proposed fiscal year capital projects, made sense. Over the years, we used to have 9 categories in which we used to evaluate projects. We scaled them back to 7. This was going back to 2018, 2017. And each year, CIPC would have or take a vote about how it wanted to apply weighting factors to each one of the scores. So for example, before your capital projects would be submitted to you, this year you might turn around and say, based on this list here, that you're looking for more projects that have historical, cultural, and quality of life. And you might want to take that from a 1.3 and you might decide, hey, we want to give that a weighting factor of 3. By doing so, as you change this and you decide, it makes adjustments automatically within the spreadsheet and then gives tabulated scores and makes adjustments as you go along. So the other part of this is this sheet also shows any type of capital leases that are currently taken off of the monies that are set aside for capital improvements on an annual basis. So if you recall, there would always be something about saying, hey, we have $1.3 million that's available to apply towards capital, but hey, we're going to take the first 3 components that are in an agreement with the town, and we're going to take those right off the bat. So those 3 capital liabilities have to be dealt with before you can start paying for other projects that departments had submitted. So the way this would work is that this sheet would get created and it would put in the titles of all of the projects of the departments. And then over here, you put in the cost of the projects. And up here, we put in what is available for capital for the year. The way that all of this data gets inputted is through this eye chart of a sheet, okay, where each one of the members is given a number here for each one of the components in which the evaluation is being computed. So in this case, we had 5 members on that year, and then each member was given a number, and then each member would be charged over a week or 2 to come up with its score. And we would have the score set, I believe, 1 through, let's say 1 through 5. And that we would configure this where depending upon how you would weight each one of the projects compared to each one of the 7 criteria, would then tabulate all these scores, and then over on this sheet, it would automatically compile all of the results. So this is just an example of one that goes back a few years ago. I believe this was the last one we did. And what this was able to do for us is it said, okay, Grafton, we wanted to take a look at, here's a list that comes up. And then the committee would then look at the list and the projects, and then it would go in descending order in which each one of the projects figures would then automatically get subtracted and then tell you what you can afford and what you can't afford on any given year. The committee would then take this chart and then it would say, does this make sense? And then you can move things around in here manually. That gives you a better idea. Let's say you wanted to put in some other projects and you think this makes sense, depending upon, the way your discussions go. And then it would generate a final report for you. So this is what one looks like that's completed. Just to let you know that as we put in the cost of the funding of the project, we have another column over here that we added for other funding. And as you can see over here in the notes, we would put over here, for example, a couple of these projects from the highway that talked about a truck and a Caterpillar loader. We said, hey, we could probably get those through Chapter 90 funds. And based on those Chapter 90 funds, we would offset each one of these projects by the amount over here that we feel that we could get other funding. There's some other funding projects we might get a grant for 50 cents on the dollar. So this would give an opportunity, for example, say like, hey, this, we could only get 50 cents on, 221,000. We would put then 50% of that over here. And then on the column over here, it would automatically tabulate going down, showing that, hey, if this grant project comes in, we can afford and pay for this project. Any questions on this sheet so far? It's a lot to kind of go over. Usually it takes like a full meeting to go over this, but I didn't want to take up a ton of time unless a lot of you think that you kind of pick up on this, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Peter, do you have that document where we kind of edited down to 5 categories? It's pretty blank, where if we wanted to just type one project in, we could show what that would look like.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just wanted to show the example one. I'll give you 1 second and I'll pull that right up. So this is the master blank one. This is the one that I assisted you with back a few weeks ago. Actually, a couple months ago now.
So long.
Is this the one that you're referring to right here?
Yes, I thought we had added like the pumper lease and stuff like that, but maybe we didn't save it. I don't know.
Yep, we did. Hold on 1 second here. I don't know. It stopped sharing. We're gonna broke the internet. All right, this is the one here. Are you talking about this one here that we came up with?
Yes, but those are not the right projects, but it doesn't matter. It's blank. We can, because I thought we moved it down to 5 grading categories instead of 7. We eliminated 2 of them.
I thought we did too. I thought I sent all that to you.
I couldn't find it either, so maybe it just didn't, I don't know, save or something.
I hope not.
So what we're talking about right now, if you guys can see in the middle here where it has those 7 categories, public safety, infrastructure, service efficiency, we eliminated 2 of them and we just kept it to the 5 that were recommended in the guide that we handed out to all the department heads. So they knew what scoring system we were using and we're staying true to that. It doesn't mean we can't add things in the future and bump it back up to 7 or however we feel. But I think historical and cultural was one that we ditched, and a multi-year project, I think maybe was the other one. I can't be sure. But we narrowed it down to 5 categories. We added in some of the lease based off the last year's capital plan that we knew would be coming up, like the pumper, and just to get a feel of what it was going to look like already. And then the last thing we needed to do was, this is set up for a 5-member board. We needed to add 7 more. So Peter, one of the other questions I've heard was, what does the scoring sheet look like for a member when they just log in and type in their scores? Do we hand them something separately, or do we just enter the projects and then people score according to their column?
They just enter the score according to their column, and then they email that sheet back to you, like with their name on the file. And then what you do is you take a copy of their column, like say here for member 1, And basically you have the two sheets side by side with one another, and you basically just copy their figures over for each one of the 5 or 7 criteria. One second here.
Matt, you're super good at Excel, correct?
I would say that's accurate.
So when we get to the point of handing these out, would that be something you would be able to compile into one list if we sent them all to you, or are you not comfortable with that?
I could, yeah, for sure. It's just cut and paste.
Okay. Or just walk me through it so I don't screw it up, and then I'll do it. I don't
Yeah.
mind.
No, absolutely. Yep. There are some formulas, so the only complexity, I guess, is if you're copying formulas, you just need to make sure that you're preserving those formulas as we cut them in. But yeah, I definitely can do that.
I tried doing formulas recently a few months ago with something for Mark, and I literally had like plus C1, plus C2, plus C3, and he wrote back, he's like, never do that again. You're the worst. I'm like, okay.
All right. So I'm not sure what happened. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I'm looking at one. I built this one back on September 25th, right? And great. I did break the internet here.
What are you trying to figure out?
I'm trying to figure out where I saved it.
Is that a Friday? I feel like that would
It
have
was
been
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, that's when we met.
And yeah, I'm looking at it. You know what I didn't do is I think you needed to discuss about the 5 criteria that you wanted. And I think that's what we were waiting for, Colleen. And I left the leases in there just to show how to add the leases. So it's very easily it's very easy. You can make the changes. It's not that difficult. And if you want, we can go through that right now, and I can get that out to you while you have the whole committee here. It's completely up to you.
Well, I have the 5 criteria right here based off what we sent to the department heads. It's up to you, Peter, how much time you want to put into this right now. I know it's starting to get late for everybody. This is probably your 4th meeting of the week. So if it's what the committee wants to do, if you guys want to bang it out right now, we can. If you feel comfortable having one of us do it offline, you guys tell me what you want to do right now.
I think offline is fine.
Okay.
So I did have a question about, you had the leases at the top, and I'm still a little confused about the bookkeeping for this Trane thing. Is that something that would appear on that, or is that
No,
so
no,
difficult
it
to?
would not, Amy. So Amy, these are funding sources that fall outside of any bond payment. So it was funny when you guys were talking about the Honeywell, I was actually looking for all my old documents, and I found some of them. I actually found the actual final report from Honeywell back in 2011, 2012. And it was paid out of a 20-year bond with the savings. So very much like it would take the savings and that would be applied towards paying a bond down over 20 years. I believe it was like just north of 6 million. That was for the whole Honeywell project, which included the schools, municipal building, and like they were saying earlier. But it wouldn't be in this sheet.
Except, Peter, they never calculated the savings. Every time we asked what the savings were every year, Finance Committee, they never had an answer.
Yeah, we had some questions on CIPC back then, which I think caused a lot of controversy, which is why we need the bylaw. Okay, but we never got copies of or any data whatsoever from the savings. I think it was mentioned in a meeting once, but there was no actual codified report, to your point, that showed what the actual savings were on an annual basis, and then where was that money transferred into some sort of bond? Because if you recall, the first special town meeting that was had just to go through the Honeywell project failed. And then they had another one afterwards, which eventually it did pass. I think we'd have to go back and look at 2012 and find whatever reports that were present at the time to see what that was.
Well, I know Doug, whenever I'd asked Doug for the savings calculations for that year, I always got, well, they're trying to figure out how they're going to do that and never got an answer. So I don't know if there were any savings that were put toward that bond.
Somehow the money had to be paying for the bond somewhere.
Well, there was money, it's coming out of the operating budget.
Yeah, but there's got to be someplace in your journal entries throughout the town that's got to show that money transferring because it was authorized at town meeting.
Well, I don't know why they couldn't show it to us then when we asked for it.
I don't know either. I can't answer that. But anyway, so I could go through this again and fix it up. It won't take long. You can give me the weighting criteria too as well, Colleen, if you'd like. It won't take me long to fix this up and get this out to you.
Okay. Well, we don't really have much more on our agenda. Greg, did you send me any meeting minutes that we need to approve? Because if you did, I didn't send them out, so we don't have to do that.
I think you did send them out.
October 14th, yes.
Oh, I did send them out?
Yes.
Yeah, right away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Greg
Okay,
sent
did
it.
everybody review them? You guys feel comfortable voting on them? Perfect. So I'll take a motion for that.
I move we approve the minutes of October 14th as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll take a roll call vote. We'll start with Sue,
Aye.
Matt,
Abstain.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Colleen, aye. So motion passes. So that's all set. And then that's about it. We have a couple meetings scheduled in November just to get us going, and then we'll have to schedule a few more, but I just figured we'd wait and see what kind of work we're working with here before we determine how many more we need to get us through November.
There was
had-
one more on the agenda for tonight. It says updates regarding upcoming capital submission deadline.
Right. I did reach out to Chris about that, and he said he's doing well and that he's gonna have more information by the end of the week. So there was one more question about the library. They were wondering, I'm gonna have to go back and read that email. I apologize. They did have a question and they couldn't figure out if they were gonna need to submit for something that's coming out of the operating budget already. I think it was something like that. So I apologize. I don't have that right in front of me to review with you guys, but that's about it for that. So.
Okay, so we just skip over that item because there really wasn't anything there. So I'll just leave that.
Yeah, I put it there kind of like a placeholder in case anything came up. I wanted to be able to talk about it, but nothing. I knew I'd sent Chris the email, but the email wasn't fruitful when it came back. There wasn't anything crazy to update. So that's it. Peter, if you're not doing anything, I'll hang on the call with you and work this out.
No need, I found it.
Oh, good.
It was buried deep in a folder, but I can share it out with you just so you can all see it.
Awesome.
All right, thank you. Yep. All right, how does that look? Okay, so here are the 5 criteria that we had discussed, and this is the master scoring sheet here. We have to add, I think the only thing we have to do here is just add the 7 members. If you want to just go down the list and give me everyone's name, who you want to give each number to, we can have that all done for you right now. I can just go from left to right on your screen and just take it from there.
Great.
Any rate, so it's all set. Here, I think this is what you're referring to earlier.
Yes.
So you can see all 5 of the scores are listed here. The weighting factors are applied. If you notice, I plugged in a number. I think this 913 was just some estimate that was given to us back, I don't know,
Month ago.
a couple months ago. If you show here, I showed the 3 lease payments, the Dell servers, fire pumper tanker lease, and engine 3. all showing their liabilities. And one of the notes we added here that we didn't have before was when their lease maturities are up. So as you can see here, it looks like the Dell servers are up first, followed by the fire pumper tanker lease, and then engine 3. Over here, if you recall, I said this is a number that you can change. So if you, if you get 1.3 million, as you can see here, it's going to take those monies from these leases and automatically subtract them from the available appropriation that is set aside to afford these leases. And then any other project based on the scores that you see here in this column will be sorted in descending order. And then as you plug in their cost, over here, let me see here. As you can see, as things started going down the list here, you can see how it's subtracting each one of the rows here based on the numeric value of the score of the project. And it's calculated over here on the right what money you have left after each one of the projects. So that's how that would work.
And then if you put something in the other funding, it
yep, let me show that to you. So that's great. So let's do okay, so let's say we get 35,000 of other funding for this one project. As you can see, did it not work? Oh,
it did not.
Nope, here we go. All right, something's broken there. I just got to go back and fix it.
Take it out of the cost of the project, maybe?
You could do that, but what you want to do is you want to validate all of the costs of the projects as a control. That's why it was over there. And I believe we put that other column over there just to kind of keep track of everything. It's a simple formula fix. It's not the end of the world. But Greg, to your point, that's how that would operate.
I have a question about the reoccurring lease payment maturity. So the first one there that says FY22, that would get removed for FY23, that whole line?
Yes. So next year when you did this, and based on this information, this $10,800 liability would come off the rolls. So if that were to occur, like let's say you're doing it this year, as you can see, it automatically updates and says, oh, you've got a little bit more money available for other projects outside of these leases.
Perfect.
Yeah, so this is seems organized primarily for the yearly budget process,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
So we're going to have to develop something else for the long-term plan.
Yep.
And I think that's really important that we do that. Otherwise, we're going to end up right back where we started if we don't have that 5-year
Completely agree.
calculated. So.
Yep.
So does everybody have access to the Google Drive Peter set up for CIPC?
Yeah, I sent out a while ago just all of the data that for years that we had any given year. So I shared it out with Colleen.
Yep.
So Colleen, you should be able to share it as well as Matt.
Yep.
Okay. Google Drive's my favorite after Excel, so I'll get right on that.
I have a, you just need to show me where it is, Pete, because I think
Oh,
went to the same, I went to the blank worksheet folder in CIPC, and that's not the files we're looking at right now.
Yep, I know. I just never updated them that night. So I found the one on my drive here. I just got to make some minor changes to it and validate it. And I have another file that I could use as a control just to make sure that everything is working as it should. It won't take me long to get that squared away. So, and
all right, just put the current files in a current files folder or something and just let me know, and I'm happy to share it out to everybody.
Okay.
Colleen, I can do Google Drive.
So can I.
Rub it in, everybody, rub it in.
Loving Google.
So one of the things I just figured out is that I have access to the CIPC bylaw folder.
That's mine. Yep.
That's Matt's. But the way I figured that out is I went to drive.google.com, clicked on shared with me,
Yep.
and searched for CIPC to see what I had access to. So that would work for anybody, except Greg. He doesn't have access to anything.
Greg.
I sent you the updated slides, Colleen.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think that pretty much covers it. And the next time we meet, we should have a capital package to be going over. So that's very exciting. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss, or?
We'll get that capital package ahead of time so we can.
Yeah, November. So I'm supposed to be getting something on November 1st, and I can send it out to you guys as soon as I get it. So we'll all have something to talk about. And if I'm proactive enough and get it early enough, I might be able to plug them all in so that we have the Excel sheet ready to go, and then figure out how we want to go from there.
Okay.
So that's my goal.
So my question is about the process. Are we going to meet to discuss the capital package before we vote? Or are we going to vote and then discuss?
I think it's kind of up in the air. I mean, we can at least discuss when we get it and figure out how we want to do that. Because everybody's voting individually. I don't know if it would affect anything really.
So Pete, how's that gone? How's that gone in the past? Everybody did their sheets, they plugged them in, like they copied and pasted. Now you have something for the entire committee to look at. How did it go from there?
So you take that sheet and then we ask the committee, hey, everyone, does this make sense to you? Does the list of the projects in the order in which they're being presented once the scores are compiled, does that make sense? I mean, it's designed to have a conversation. And then if you feel like you want to move some projects up and around, move things around, and you feel that after, however your discussions go, you then create one final copy of everything and you say, look, I don't care about the score and the metrics over here. Here's what I'm reporting. And that final report is what you send off to the TA and the select board for their consideration. Because remember, this is advisory nature and only, right? So they take that, and I will say that every single time we've submitted this, it's been accepted. But as long as you're working within that number, that's available, that would be presented at town meeting to pay for all these projects. You take this sheet, does it make sense? You can add things, remove things to kind of balance things out, maybe get more projects in there and try to get that number as close to zero as possible and go from there.
Colleen,
I guess the question was, do we review the packet as a committee before we rank, or do we rank and then?
I would rank them first, Greg. Yeah, Greg, I see your point. I would rank them first, okay? And again, you can do whatever you want, but I would rank them first. Put the sheet together, and then at one of your meetings, put the sheet up and then look at the list together and then have a conversation about it. And then people can start kind of making their own kind of models based on, well, what projects didn't make the cut? But that's how I would do it.
Yep. So one of the key elements of this is the weighting. And so maybe Pete, you can just talk a little bit, because I think that's something that the committee will want to talk about. We will want to agree on what the weightings are for the various categories.
Yeah, so it's dependent on what you feel. This is an older weighting metric here. So basically, as these scores get calculated here from the other sheet, let me just kind of put something in here.
Did you
I'm
have
not
a
seeing your
question,
screen.
Sue? Did you have a question, Sue?
Yeah, I just wanted to say we will be receiving all those capital projects. Each of the department will get the reasoning behind and their 5-year plan, so we can review that as well.
That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a bunch of sheets like this, but I can't promise that. That's just what I'm expecting.
Okay.
So let's go back here. So this weighting factor here, 5, if you
You're
recall.
not sharing.
I'm not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not seeing. Zoom failed today.
Bingo.
I'm not muted. Wait a minute. All right. So this weighting factor here takes into account all of this as an average over here and multiplies it times this weighting factor. So if this changes here, as you can see, if we change the weighting factor to public safety and health, it changes that score to a 10.2. Okay. So that's how that works. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where based on these 5 criteria, what is the weighting factor you wish to use? And if you wanted to start it off, I mean, you could technically score them all as ones. And as you can see, it changes each one of those scores. And then as they get compiled over here, as you can see for project number 1, you can see how this score got updated. So it takes the tally of all of the members' participation, enters them in here, and gives a score. As you can see, all of the weight measures changed over here as well because I changed it from the other sheet. And then depending upon what these scores look like, Greg, to your point, these can be sorted in descending order. So the highest score gets ranked first project, and then from there, it goes from there. So this decision right here is something you all can make.
Right.
You don't have to.
Safety and
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I was talking over somebody.
yeah, my computer's a little bit delayed.
You're breaking up, Greg.
Public safety is safety has a typo in it.
Greg needs to charge his
I didn't
headphones.
understand a word you said, Greg.
Greg needs a reboot.
What
That
I'm
was
saying
good.
is that
So that's all I was pointing out is the weighting factors.
Yeah.
We have to decide as a committee.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
important because ultimately, once you've done all your scoring, the weighting factors result in the final scoring, I guess. So it's a significant element to determining which projects rise to the top.
So like a mandatory would probably be 5, right? There's nothing we can do. It's mandatory. It's a legal requirement. So that would be a 5. And then we can go from there, how we feel about the rest.
Yep. So I think that's a discussion that we all have to have. And I think my sense of it is that we should just make some quick decisions, score everything out, and then see how it works out. And then, because we'll see how the math works, and we'll determine whether it makes sense. And I guess that's what Pete was talking about earlier. You sort of plug everything in and see how it works out. And if there's outliers or things that don't make sense, then you can adjust, either have some discussions about the scores that people are giving things, because somebody might say, oh, this is clearly a public safety thing. And somebody else might say, no, that seems more like an infrastructure or, whatever personnel thing for me. And so people might make adjustments there, or you could adjust the weighting.
I like it.
Sorry
Cool.
about that. Okay.
How soon did you find out, Peter, the amount of money that you'd be working with?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How soon did you find out the amount of money that was going to be used for capital?
So we would know basically when certified free cash was kind of estimated. We were given a figure like in the early fall. And then we just worked on that. We really didn't care about what this amount, because what we found out, Sue, and you could attest to this, sometimes this number would change as we get closer to town meeting.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say it started off with 913,000 that you got in early fall. Let's say they found some warrant articles that they were able to liquidate for whatever reason, and that added another 300, a couple $100,000. You could easily get to $1,050,000, and then you can plug that in. And then what would happen is that all of these projects would then extend down, saying, oh, now you can afford the next one that didn't make the cut based on available funding.
Yeah. I'm hoping to have more to work with.
Carter did say that we will not have a number to work with. He did not think he would be able to provide us a number. We just need to rank and prioritize. I hope that changes, but that was the last I had heard.
Well, free cash is certified, so why can't he give us the number?
Well, it really shouldn't matter that much for us. I think, just need to anticipate somewhere between 900,000 and maybe 1.2. I mean, we're in a range every single year.
Well, we are, but we also have that extra 800,000 from the override.
It's not going to be allocated.
And not this year?
Nope.
For 21?
We voted on the tax classification last night, Sue.
I didn't watch your meeting,
That's
so.
right. Yeah, that's why I can answer that,
Okay.
factually, that, yeah.
But isn't that for this fiscal year? Not next fiscal, not 21?
We opted to hold off a year or two before implementing that. And we haven't had okay, I'm speaking here a little bit more, I should be, but select board hasn't talked about what its policy is and how it plans to implement that. I think we are waiting for.
Okay.
We might want to be
having-
careful saying select board at all because there is a quorum.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just reporting a fact that the board has not had a discussion about that at this time.
Well, would you hurry up and make that? Because, I mean, you shouldn't drag your feet on that. We have so many capital projects.
Understood.
Select board,
I know, I think I know the chair personally. I'll check.
would you do that? I would appreciate that, Peter.
I figured you would. All right. So I can work with you, Colleen, and we can populate I can help you out with, inputting the data and getting this out. Again, we want to get a list of how many projects are being proposed. We don't care about the amounts at this point in time. We'll get the cost of the projects. If there's other funding that's available, like Chapter 90, or whatever it is, our grant process, we'll put that in there. And we'll make sure this all calculates out for you. So that way, when you do plug in a final number that is given to you, you'll know where the list cuts off.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. As far as filming a quick video explaining the CIPC bylaw, does anybody want to do that with me, or don't all jump at once?
I'm
Don't
happy
do
to do that.
Sorry, I wasn't listening, Colleen. What did you just say?
Who wants to be in the video? And Matt said he would.
Oh,
And-
not me.
Okay. So Matt, we'll figure out a time probably tomorrow to try to knock that out real quick, and then I can try to get it over to Toma as fast as possible.
Sounds good.
Okay.
You might want to explain to the people what the purpose of a bylaw is.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, this is why we're doing it. There is a purpose to a bylaw. So-
My goal is to have it to be 2 minutes or under, though. I don't want another 15-minute video. Just make it quick.
No, you can do
Yep.
it quick.
Absolutely.
Just
Okay.
talk faster. That's fine.
What, Amy?
Just talk faster. It's fine.
I find that really challenging.
I know.
All right, leave Matt alone. Okay.
All right.
All right, so I think we've wrapped everything up that we need to tonight. So
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you, Peter. Second.
Welcome. Thank you for
Okay.
inviting me.
motion is, yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. Motion is second. Sue,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, are you there?
Sorry, I muted myself. Aye.
Amy,
Yeah, aye.
Colleen, aye.